Humble boy fixes broken combine harvester of millionaire farmer, but when he sees, Jacob William Thompson never imagined a simple favor would change his life forever. The 15-year-old boy was walking home from school when he heard desperate shouts coming from Greenfield Farm, the most prosperous property in the Clearwater region of rural California. Richard Anderson clutched his straw hat with both hands, staring at the giant red combine harvester stalled in the middle of the soybean field. The 58-year-old man, known throughout town for his wealth and difficult temper, paced in circles around the machine, clearly distraught. "This can't be happening now," he shouted to the sky. "The rain is coming in just 3 days." Jacob stopped at the wire fence separating the road from the property. He immediately recognized the situation. The soybean harvest was almost ready, but if the rain came before they finished, the entire crop would be lost. For a farmer, that meant millions in losses. The boy watched the scene for a few minutes. Richard kept trying to restart the combine, but the machine only made a strange noise before dying again. Jacob knew that sound well. His father, Robert Thompson, had worked as an agricultural mechanic for years before losing his job due to a back injury. "Mr. Anderson!" Jacob called from the fence. The farmer turned abruptly, annoyed by the interruption. When he saw the skinny boy in simple clothes with a school backpack, his expression darkened further. "What do you want, kid? Get out of here. I don't have time for games." "I can take a look at the machine for you," Jacob replied, climbing the fence without waiting for permission. Richard let out a bitter laugh. "You? A kid? I already called the best mechanic in the area, and he can't come until tomorrow afternoon. And you think you can fix it?" Jacob approached the combine, ignoring the farmer's sarcastic tone. He pressed his ear near the engine and asked Richard to try starting it again. The sound confirmed his suspicion. "It's the fuel delivery system," Jacob said confidently. "Probably a clogged filter or air in the line." Richard fell silent for a moment, studying the boy with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "And how do you know that?" "My dad used to fix these machines. I grew up helping him." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. The farmer hesitated. The weather forecast was clear. Heavy rain was coming. Losing the crop would be a financial disaster. On the other hand, trusting a kid seemed absurd. "Listen, boy." Richard sighed heavily. "If you can get this machine running, I'll pay you $500. Jacob swallowed hard. $500 was more money than his family saw in 2 months. His mother, Karen, worked as a house cleaner, and his father had been unemployed for 6 months. They were behind on rent and the electric bill. "I'll need some tools," Jacob said. Richard led him to the farm's workshop, which was well equipped. Jacob grabbed a wrench, a screwdriver, and a few other tools. Back at the combine, he got to work methodically. First, he checked the fuel tank. It was full. Then, he inspected the hoses leading diesel to the engine. Everything looked fine on the outside. The problem had to be in the fuel filter or pump. "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" Richard asked nervously. "This machine cost over $800,000. Jacob paused and looked at the farmer. "Do you want me to stop?" Richard shook his head, but Jacob could see the worry in his eyes. The man was clearly torn between despair and distrust. Jacob kept working. He removed the fuel filter and confirmed his suspicion. It was completely clogged with impurities. It was a common problem, but one that could stop a $1 million machine. "I need to clean the filter and check for air in the line," Jacob explained. As he worked, Jacob noticed something strange. There were marks on the filter housing that didn't seem normal. They looked like intentional scratches, as if someone had forced something to clog the system. "Mr. Anderson?" Jacob called. "Could you come here a minute?" The farmer approached and Jacob showed him the marks. "This isn't natural wear. Someone sabotaged your machine." Richard's face turned red with anger. "That's impossible. Who would do such a thing?" Jacob examined it more closely. The marks were fresh and there were traces of a strange substance in the filter. Looks like they mixed sand with something oily. It was made to look like a natural clog, but it wasn't. Richard started pacing in circles again, but now his anger had a different target. "I know who did this," he muttered. It had to be Victor Reynolds. Jacob knew that name. Victor Reynolds was another farmer in the area known for his shady business practices. There were rumors he'd tried to sabotage other producers to monopolize contracts with big companies. Why do you think it was him? We're competing for the same supply contract. Whoever delivers the soybeans first gets exclusivity. If I lose my harvest, he'll have the market to himself. Jacob finished cleaning the filter and reinstalled everything. He asked Richard to try starting the machine. The engine coughed, hesitated for a moment, then roared back to life. "It worked!" Richard shouted, nearly jumping for joy. But the joy was short-lived. As Jacob was putting away his tools, he heard the engine start to falter again. The machine was losing power. "What's happening now?" Richard asked, panic creeping back into his voice. Jacob rushed back to the combine harvester and checked the system. There was more. The saboteur hadn't just clogged the filter, they'd also damaged a crucial seal. Diesel was leaking slowly. "It's worse than I thought," Jacob admitted. "There's a leak in the main line." Richard held his head in his hands. "How long do you need to fix it?" Jacob examined the damage. It was a more complex repair, requiring welding and a new seal. "About 3 hours if I can get the right parts." 3 hours? It's already 4 in the afternoon. If it gets dark, we won't be able to work properly. That's when Jacob had an idea. "What if we worked at night? With the combine's headlights on, we can see." Richard looked at the young man with a mix of desperation and admiration. "You'd do that?" "For the money you promised, I'd work all night if I had to." But Jacob had other motivations besides money. There was something about the situation that stirred his indignation. Seeing someone try to destroy another man's honest work bothered him in a way he couldn't explain. Richard called the parts supplier in Riverdale and arranged for them to bring the necessary seals. While they waited, Jacob kept inspecting the machine and made even more disturbing discoveries. "Mr. Anderson, there's more here," Jacob said, pointing to the hydraulic system. "Someone loosened some critical bolts. If the machine ran like this too long, there could have been a serious accident." The revelation left Richard pale. An out-of-control combine harvester could injure or even kill someone. "This isn't just commercial sabotage anymore," murmured the farmer. "This is attempted murder." Jacob felt a chill run down his spine. He was dealing with something far more serious than he'd imagined. When the supplier arrived with the parts, it was already 6 in the evening. Jacob worked intently, with Mr. Anderson holding the flashlight and helping as best he could. The farmer, who had initially doubted the boy's skills, now watched every move with growing respect. "How did you learn to do all this?" asked Mr. Anderson during a break. "My dad always said machines have a soul of their own. You have to listen to what they're trying to tell you." "And where is your father now?" Jacob hesitated before answering. "He hurt his back at work. Can't do heavy labor anymore. He's at home, kind of down." "Down how?" "Well, you know how it is. A man who can't work feels a bit lost." Mr. Anderson nodded understandingly. He knew that feeling even as a wealthy man. There were times he felt useless when problems on his farm were beyond his control. Jacob finished the repairs around 9 at night. This time, when they tested the machine, it worked perfectly. The engine purred smoothly, and all systems responded normally. "Incredible," said Mr. Anderson, relieved. "Now I can start harvesting first thing tomorrow." "There's just one problem," Jacob said seriously. "If it really was Victor Reynolds who did this, he might try again." Mr. Anderson considered the observation. "You're right. I need to figure out a way to protect myself." "Why don't you hire someone to watch the machine at night?" "Hire who? The men who work here live far away, and private security is expensive." Jacob had a sudden idea. "What if I stayed here?" Mr. Anderson looked at him, surprised. "You?" "I know the machine now. If anyone tries to tamper with it, I'll know right away." "But you're just a boy. If it really is Victor, he might bring dangerous people." "I won't confront anyone. I'll just keep watch and let you know if something happens." Mr. Anderson thought it over. It made sense. Jacob knew the machine better than anyone now, and his presence would discourage saboteurs. "All right, but I'm staying here with you." "You don't have to, Mr. Anderson. You need rest for tomorrow." "No way. If you're risking your safety for me, I won't leave you alone." Jacob smiled. He was starting to like the old farmer. despite his reputation for being difficult. Mr. Anderson brought blankets and hot coffee from the main house. The two settled in the barn, where they could see the combine harvester parked in the yard. Jacob took the chance to share more about his family and his life. "My mom cleans houses for the wealthy families in town. She leaves at 5 in the morning and comes back at 8 at night. My dad stays home trying to do small repairs, but he can't handle heavy work. That must be hard for you all." "Yeah, but we manage. My mom always says God doesn't give us more than we can carry." "Your mother sounds like a wise woman." "She is. She's the one who taught me that it doesn't matter if someone's rich or poor. Everyone deserves respect." Mr. Anderson fell silent for a moment, reflecting on the boy's words. "Jacob, can I ask you something personal?" "Sure. What do you want to be when you grow up?" Jacob looked at the combine harvester, lit by the barn's floodlights. "I'd like to have my own repair shop, fix farm equipment for small producers who can't afford the expensive shops in town." "That's a fine dream." "It's just a dream, really. To have a shop, you need money for tools, for the space, for everything." "All big dreams start small," said Mr. Anderson. "Look at what you did today. You solved a problem even the best mechanic around wasn't available to fix." Jacob felt proud but tried not to show it. Around midnight, they heard a strange noise coming from the direction of the road. Jacob silently signaled to Mr. Anderson. A dark pickup truck had stopped about 200 yards from the farm, its headlights off. "It's them," murmured Mr. Anderson. 3 men got out of the vehicle and cautiously walked toward the combine harvester. Jacob recognized one of them as Victor Reynolds, but the other 2 were strangers. "What do we do?" whispered Jacob. "Let's watch first. I need to be sure what they're up to before we act." The men approached the machine with tools and a few cans. Jacob immediately realized they were prepared to cause serious damage. "They brought acid," said Jacob, recognizing the shape of the cans. "They're going to ruin the engine." Mr. Anderson was furious, but Jacob held him back. "Wait, let them start. That way we'll have proof." Victor directed the other 2 men with precise gestures. It was clear they had a well-thought-out plan. One man began opening the hood of the combine, while the other prepared the acid cans. "Now," said Jacob. Mr. Anderson grabbed his phone and started recording. The quality wasn't perfect due to the low light, but the faces and actions were clearly visible. When Victor began pouring acid into the engine, Mr. Anderson couldn't take it anymore. "Stop right there," he shouted, rushing out of the barn with Jacob close behind. The 3 men froze for a moment but quickly recovered. Victor yelled at his accomplices and they sprinted toward the pickup. "You won't get away," Mr. Anderson shouted, chasing after them. But the saboteurs were faster and reached the vehicle before he could catch them. The pickup screeched away and disappeared down the road. Jacob ran to the combine and inspected the damage. The acid had been poured, but there hadn't been enough time to cause severe harm to the engine. "We got there in time," Jacob said, relieved. "A few more minutes, and the engine would have been ruined." Mr. Anderson was still catching his breath from the chase. "At least now we have proof. I'll take this video to the sheriff tomorrow." "What about the machine?" "I can try to clean the acid before it does more damage." "You think you can?" "I'll try. I'll need plenty of water and baking soda to neutralize the acid." Mr. Anderson brought the supplies, and Jacob spent the next 2 hours meticulously cleaning every part of the engine that had been hit. It was delicate work. Any leftover acid could cause corrosion later. When he finished, Jacob was exhausted but satisfied. "Done. The machine's safe. Jacob, I don't know how to thank you. You saved my harvest, my farm, maybe even my life. I just did what anyone would." "No, son. You did far more than that. Most folks would have kept going when they saw me in trouble. You stopped to help." Jacob smiled shyly. He wasn't used to such direct praise. "Now let's get some sleep," said Mr. Anderson. "Tomorrow's going to be a long day." They slept in the barn, taking turns keeping watch. Jacob woke at 5 in the morning to the sound of the combine's engine starting. Mr. Anderson was testing the machine again. "Perfect!" the farmer shouted. "It's running better than before." Jacob stretched and checked his repairs in the daylight. Everything was in order. "I can start harvesting right now," said Mr. Anderson. With this machine working right, I'll finish before noon. What about Victor Reynolds? I'll take the video to the sheriff after the harvest, but first, I need to make sure my soybeans are safe. Jacob helped Mr. Anderson prepare the combine and watched as the farmer got to work. The machine cut through the soybean plants with impressive efficiency, separating the grains and storing them in the grain tank. Around 8 in the morning, Jacob remembered he was supposed to be at school. Mr. Anderson, I need to let my family know I'm okay and get to class. Of course, Jacob, but first... Richard stopped the machine and climbed down from the cab. You've earned way more than the $500 I promised. The farmer pulled out his wallet and counted out $1,000. This is for the repair. But there's more. Jacob stared at the money, stunned. He'd never seen so much all at once. I want to make you an offer, Richard continued. How about working here during your break? I can teach you everything about farm management, and you can help me with machine maintenance. Are you serious? Completely serious. A talent like yours shouldn't go to waste. Jacob couldn't believe what he was hearing. Not only had he earned enough money to help his family, but he also had a chance to learn more about what he loved doing. I accept, Jacob said excitedly. Great. Now go home, take a shower, head to school, and tell your parents about our talk. Jacob practically ran off the farm. He couldn't wait to get home to share the news with his parents and then tell his friends at school. But when he got home, he found an unexpected situation. His mother, Karen, was sitting at the kitchen table with papers spread out in front of her and tears in her eyes. Mom, what's wrong? Karen tried to hide her crying but couldn't. It's nothing, son. Just some issues here. Jacob saw the papers were overdue bills and notices about the electricity being cut off. Mom, how much do we owe? Jacob, that's not your concern. You need to focus on your studies. Mom, I got some money. A lot of money. Jacob told the whole story from the night before as he showed his mother the $1,000. Karen stayed silent, torn between pride and worry. Jacob, are you sure this money is honest? Of course it is, Mom. I fixed Mr. Anderson's machine and he paid me for the work. But $1,000 is a lot. Are you sure he doesn't want anything in return? Jacob explained the job offer for the break and how he'd helped prevent sabotage. Karen listened carefully, her concern easing. That man seems serious, she finally said, but you have to keep studying. I don't want you dropping out of school. I won't, Mom. Mr. Anderson said the work is just during the break. Robert Thompson, Jacob's father, had overheard the conversation from the living room and limped over. Let me see that money, he said skeptically. Jacob showed him the bills and told the story again. Robert examined the money as if he couldn't believe it was real. Jacob, are you sure you fixed that machine right? Yes, Dad. I used everything you taught me. Robert smiled for the first time in months. That's my boy, he said, emotional. Always knew you had a knack for this. Jacob felt proud to have finally done something that impressed his father. With this money, we can pay off the overdue bills, Karen said, calculating in her head. And still have enough left for proper groceries, Robert added. Jacob arrived at school halfway through second period, but got special permission when he explained he'd been working overnight to help his family. The principal was moved by his story and let him share it with the class. His classmates were stunned when Jacob described how he'd fixed an $800,000 combine harvester and stopped sabotage. You're gonna be rich, said his best friend Tyler. Not exactly, Jacob replied. It's just a summer job. But deep down, Jacob had bigger hopes. Maybe that opportunity could really change his life. During recess, Jacob was approached by Ms. Johnson, the math teacher. Jacob, can I talk to you? Of course, ma'am. I heard your story, and I was very impressed. Do you have plans for after high school? I wanted to take a technical course in mechanics, but I'm not sure we'll have the money. What if I told you there are scholarships for talented students like you? Jacob grew interested. How so? There's a technical school in Charleston that offers a full course in agricultural machinery maintenance. They give full scholarships to students who show aptitude and financial need. Do you think I'd have a chance? I'm sure of it. I'll help you prepare the application. The deadline is at the end of the month. Jacob left school that day feeling like his life was changing fast. In less than 24 hours, he'd earned more money than his family saw in months, landed a summer job, and discovered a chance to study what he truly loved. But when he got home, he found a situation that brought him back to reality. Karen was in the kitchen talking to a man Jacob didn't know. The stranger wore expensive clothes and had a serious expression. "Jacob, come here," his mother called. "This is my son Jacob," Karen said to the man. "Jacob, this is Mr. Franklin, the lawyer for Mr. Victor Reynolds." Jacob's stomach twisted. What did Victor Reynolds want with his family? "Can I speak with you privately, young man?" the lawyer asked. "You can say it right here," Jacob replied, suspicious. "Very well. My client would like to make a deal with you." "What kind of deal?" "He's willing to pay $5,000 for you to forget what you saw last night." Jacob was shocked by the offer but didn't show it. "And if I don't accept?" "That would be a shame. My client has a lot of influence in the area. It would be hard for your family to find work if he decided you were troublesome." The threat wasn't subtle. Jacob understood exactly what the lawyer was implying. "Can I think about the offer?" "Of course. But I need an answer by tomorrow at 5 in the afternoon." After the lawyer left, Jacob talked to his parents about the situation. $5,000 is a lot of money, Robert said. "More than we make in a year." "But it's wrong, Dad. Victor tried to destroy Mr. Anderson's farm." "I know it's wrong, son, but I also know Victor could make life very hard for us if he wanted." "What do you think, Mom?" Karen stayed silent for a long time before answering. "Jacob, you need to decide what kind of man you want to be. Easy money always comes at a high price. But if I don't take it, he could hurt you." "Son, I'd rather be poor with dignity than rich without it." Jacob knew his mother was right, but the pressure was overwhelming. $5,000 would solve all their financial problems, but agreeing to the deal would mean betraying Richard Anderson, who had trusted him. That night, Jacob barely slept. He lay awake thinking about the two choices until dawn. When he finally drifted off, he dreamed of his future. In the dream, he was working in his own shop, fixing tractors for small farmers. There was pride in his work and respect from the community. But the dream turned into a nightmare when he saw Victor Reynolds arriving with an eviction notice. Jacob woke up sweating, his decision made. The next morning before school, he stopped by Greenfield Farm to talk to Richard. "Mr. Anderson, I need to tell you something." Jacob recounted the lawyer's visit and Victor Reynolds' offer. $5,000 is a lot of money, Richard said, understanding. "I won't judge you if you accept." "But I won't accept," Jacob said firmly. "What he did was wrong and he needs to pay for it." Richard smiled proudly. "Jacob, you keep surprising me. But know this, if you take this deal, Victor will keep harming other farmers. That's exactly why I can't accept. If I take his money now, I'll be complicit in the crimes he'll commit later." "You're right. But I also understand your concern for your family. What if I help you another way?" "How so?" "I could hire your mother to work here at the farm. The pay would be better than house cleaning and she'd have full labor rights." Jacob was moved by the offer. "You'd really do that?" "Of course. Good, honest people are hard to find. And after what you did for me, I consider your family part of mine." Jacob left Greenfield Farm feeling much more confident. Now he had an alternative to Victor Reynolds' dirty money. When he got to school, he looked for Ms. Johnson to talk about the scholarship. "Ma'am, I wanted to know more about that technical school." "I'm glad you're interested. I brought the application forms." Jacob took the papers and examined them carefully. There were several requirements: high grades, an essay about his career ambitions, and recommendation letters. "Do you think I really have a chance?" "Jacob, after what I heard about your work with that combine harvester, I'm sure you have potential. You just need to focus on preparing." Jacob spent the rest of the day planning his application. When he got home, Victor Reynolds' lawyer was waiting in the living room. "So, young man, what's your decision?" Jacob looked at his parents, who watched anxiously, then at the lawyer. "I won't take the deal." The lawyer didn't seem surprised. "Are you sure? Is this your final answer?" "I'm sure." "Very well. I hope you don't regret this." After the lawyer left, Jacob told his parents about the job offer for Karen. "Mr. Anderson said he could hire you to work at the farm. The pay is better, with full benefits." Karen was emotional. "Even after you turned down his money?" "Especially because of that. He said honest people are hard to find." Robert hugged his son. "Jacob, you did the right thing. I'm proud of you." "Thanks, Dad. But now I need to prepare for the consequences." Jacob didn't have to wait long. The next morning, as he left for school, two strangers stood in front of his house. "You Jacob?" one asked. "I am. What do you want?" "We have a message from the boss. He says you should reconsider your decision." "What boss?" "You know exactly who we mean." Jacob realized they were Victor Reynolds' men. "Tell your boss my answer stays the same." "Smart kid. But smarts aren't always enough." The men left, but Jacob got the message. Victor wouldn't give up easily. At school, Jacob asked Ms. Johnson for help with his scholarship essay. "Ma'am, can I write about what happened with the combine harvester?" "Of course, that's exactly the kind of hands-on experience they want to see." Jacob spent recess drafting his essay. He described not just fixing the machine, but also the moral dilemma he'd faced. "Very good," Ms. Johnson said after reading it. "You showed not just technical skill, but character. Do you think it'll impress the board?" "I'm sure of it. I'll help you revise the final version." When Jacob got home that afternoon, he found his mother upset. "Jacob, someone called to say I was fired." "Fired? From which job?" "From the houses where I clean. They all let me go on the same day. They said they don't need my services anymore." Jacob felt anger rising inside him. Victor Reynolds was making good on his threat. "Mom, don't worry. Mr. Anderson said he was going to hire you." "Jacob, what if that man convinces Mr. Anderson to change his mind too?" It was a valid concern. Victor had influence in the area and could pressure other farmers. Jacob decided to go straight to Greenfield Farm to talk to Richard. When he got there, he found the farmer speaking with other men in the office. "Jacob," Richard called out. "Come here, I want to introduce you to some friends." The men were other local farmers. Richard had shown them the video of the sabotage. "This is the young man who helped me," Richard said proudly. "Jacob, these are Mr. Patrick, Mr. Mark, and Mr. Benjamin. They're farmers too." "Nice to meet you," Jacob said, shaking each of their hands. "Son, I've heard about your work," Patrick said. "Richard told us everything." "We need honest, capable people working with us," Mark added. Jacob realized Richard hadn't just decided to show the video to the police. He'd chosen to tell the whole farming community about Victor Reynolds' actions. "Mr. Anderson, can I speak with you privately?" "Of course, Jacob." They stepped away from the group, and Jacob told him about his mother's firing. "I expected as much," Richard said. "Victor has always been vengeful. Are you still willing to hire my mom?" "Of course, and not just that, I've got an even better idea." "What do you mean?" "The farmers who were here are thinking of starting a cooperative for equipment maintenance, a shared business to provide technical support for all the growers in the area." Jacob was intrigued. "And would there be a place for me in this cooperative?" "You'd be the lead technician, after you finish your studies, of course." Jacob could hardly believe what he was hearing. Not only had he stood up to Victor's pressure, but he'd found an even better opportunity. "Mr. Anderson, are you sure about this?" "Jacob, you saved my farm. More importantly, you've shown your character. You're exactly the kind of person we want on our team." Jacob rushed home excited to share the news with his parents, but when he reached his street, he saw a crowd gathered in front of the house. Running closer, Jacob discovered there had been a small fire in the kitchen. The firefighters had already put it out, but part of the house was damaged. "Mom, Dad, are you okay?" "We're fine, son," Karen answered, still shaken. "But the house—" Jacob looked at the damage. The kitchen was partly destroyed, and the rest of the house was filled with smoke. "How did the fire start?" "No one knows," one of the firefighters said. "Looks like an electrical short, but we'll need to investigate." Jacob immediately suspected something. It was too much of a coincidence right after he'd rejected Victor's offer. "Do you have somewhere to stay?" the firefighter asked. Karen and Robert exchanged worried glances. They had no close relatives in town. "You'll stay at my place," a voice said behind Jacob. It was Richard Anderson. The farmer had come as soon as he heard about the fire. "Mr. Anderson, you don't have to trouble yourself," Karen said. "It's no trouble. It's the least I can do after everything Jacob's done for me." Jacob was moved by the farmer's generosity, but also worried. Things were escalating fast and he feared his family might be in real danger. That night, settled in Richard's house, Jacob talked with his parents about the situation. "Do you think it was really an accident?" "Jacob, we can't prove anything," said Robert, "but the coincidence is suspicious." "If it was Victor, he won't stop here," said Jacob. "So what do we do?" asked Karen. "We'll go to the police tomorrow," Jacob decided. No more staying on the defensive. The next morning, Jacob, his parents, and Richard went to the police station. The sheriff, Sheriff Wilson, personally received them. "I've heard about the situation," said the sheriff. "Richard already showed me the video of the sabotage." "And what about the fire?" asked Jacob. "We'll investigate, but I need you all to be careful. If there really is a pursuit going on, it could be dangerous." Jacob felt a chill. He was starting to understand the gravity of the situation he'd gotten into. "Sheriff, what can we do to protect ourselves?" "For now, avoid going out alone. Stay in public places and around other people." Jacob spent a few days at Richard's house, feeling like an unwanted guest despite the farmer's hospitality. "Mr. Anderson, we can't stay here forever," said Jacob. "You can stay as long as you need, but I understand your concern. I need to go back to school, and my parents need to work. Jacob, your mother can start working here tomorrow, and you can ride with me to and from school." It was a temporary solution, but Jacob knew he couldn't live in fear forever. At school, Ms. Johnson had finished reviewing his essay for the scholarship. "It's excellent, Jacob. Now you just need to gather the other documents and send everything in." Jacob collected all the necessary certificates and grades. Ms. Johnson offered to write one of the recommendation letters and suggested he ask Richard for another. Being recommended by a respected farmer like Richard Anderson will help your application a lot. Jacob talked to Richard about the recommendation letter that same afternoon. "Of course I'll write it," said Richard enthusiastically. "It'll be a pleasure to recommend you. Do you really think I have a chance at getting the scholarship?" "Jacob, you have talent, determination, and character. Any institution would be happy to have you as a student." Jacob was starting to believe he could actually get the scholarship when he received devastating news. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Ms. Johnson approached him during recess with a worried expression. "Jacob, I need to tell you something. I got a call from the technical school. About my application. They said they received anonymous information questioning your moral integrity." Jacob was shocked. "What kind of information?" "Someone claimed you were involved in questionable activities with local farmers." Jacob immediately realized Victor Reynolds had found a new way to attack him. "Teacher, that's not true." "I know, Jacob, but they'll investigate before making a decision about your scholarship." Jacob felt his dream crumbling. Victor had found a way to destroy his opportunities without leaving a trace. "What can I do?" "We'll prepare a defense. You need to gather documents and witnesses who can vouch for your honesty." Jacob returned to the farm that afternoon feeling defeated. He told Richard about the scholarship problem. "That Victor is going too far," said Richard, furious. "Attacking a boy out of revenge is cowardly. Mr. Anderson, maybe I should just give up. I don't want anyone else to suffer because of me." "Jacob, if you give up now, he wins, and he'll keep doing this to others." "But what if he ruins my chance to study?" "Then we'll find another way, but we can't let him win through fear." Richard was right, but Jacob felt cornered. That night, Jacob talked at length with his parents about the situation. "Son, you have to decide if it's worth fighting," said Robert. "What do you mean, Dad?" "If you're sure you're on the right side, then you need to fight to the end. But if you have doubts, there's still time to back down." Jacob reflected on his father's words. Was he on the right side? Was he absolutely sure it was worth confronting a powerful man like Victor Reynolds? Dad, if I back down now, he'll do this to other people. Probably. And if I fight and lose, at least you'll know you tried to do the right thing. Jacob spent the whole night thinking. By morning, he had made his decision. I'm going to fight, he told his parents at breakfast. Are you sure? Asked Karen. I am. I can't let him win. Jacob went to school determined to prepare his defense. Ms. Johnson helped him draft a letter explaining the whole situation to the technical school. Let's attach copies of the police report about the sabotage and letters from people who know your character, the teacher said. Jacob spent the following days gathering documents and witnesses. Richard wrote a detailed letter describing the sabotage events and Jacob's character. Other farmers in the area also offered to testify on his behalf, but Jacob knew he needed something more convincing. He needed a way to definitively prove Victor Reynolds was lying. That's when he had an idea. Mr. Anderson, do you still have the video of the sabotage? Of course. Why? Can I see it again? Richard showed the video, and Jacob watched it several times, paying attention to details he'd missed the first time. Mr. Anderson, look here, Jacob said, pointing to the screen. You can see the pickup truck's license plate. Richard looked closer. You're right. The quality isn't great, but you can make out some numbers. If we can identify the vehicle, we can prove Victor was there. Richard took the video to a specialist in image recovery. 2 days later, they had the full license plate. Now we can track down the owner, Richard said. Jacob went with Richard to the DMV, where they discovered the pickup was registered under one of Victor Reynolds' employees. Now we have concrete proof, Jacob said, relieved. They took the information to the sheriff, who was impressed by the quality of their investigation. With this evidence, I can issue a search warrant, said Sheriff Wilson. For the first time in weeks, Jacob felt hopeful. They finally had solid evidence against Victor Reynolds, but his joy was short-lived. The next day, Jacob received a phone call at school. Jacob Thompson, said an unfamiliar voice. Speaking. I'm calling from the technical school in Charleston. I need to inform you that your scholarship application has been rejected. Jacob felt his world collapse. Because of the anonymous accusations? Unfortunately, yes. The allegations were too serious for us to ignore. Jacob hung up and sat down heavily. Victor had succeeded in destroying his future. Ms. Johnson found Jacob in the schoolyard, clearly devastated. Jacob, I heard the news. I'm so sorry. Ms. Johnson, it's over. He won. It's not over. There are other opportunities. Not like this one. It was my only chance to study what I wanted. Jacob returned to the farm that afternoon, feeling completely defeated. He told Richard about the scholarship rejection. Jacob, don't give up yet. We have other options. What options? He destroyed my reputation. No school will take me now. What if I paid for your studies? Jacob looked at Richard in surprise. You'd do that? Of course. I consider it an investment in the future. Jacob was moved by the generosity, but hesitated. Mr. Anderson, it would be a big responsibility. What if I don't live up to expectations? Jacob, you've already proven your worth. I have no doubts about your potential. But Jacob knew accepting Richard's financial help would create a debt he might never repay. Let me think about it, Jacob said. That night, Jacob discussed Richard's offer with his parents. It's an incredible opportunity, said Karen, but also a huge responsibility. Son, you need to decide if you're willing to accept help, said Robert. It's not about pride, Dad. If I accept, I'll owe Mr. Anderson forever. Not all debts are bad, Jacob. Sometimes accepting help is the smartest thing to do. Jacob was still weighing his decision when he heard strange movement outside. He looked through the window and saw shadows moving in the yard. Dad, there's someone out there, Jacob whispered. Robert peered out and confirmed. Several men. They're surrounding the house. Jacob panicked. Victor Reynolds had decided to take more direct action. What do we do? Karen asked, frightened. Let's go to the back room and call the police, Robert said. They moved quietly, but then came noises at the front door, someone trying to force their way in. Hurry, Jacob whispered. They made it to the back room, and Robert called the police, but they knew it would take time for officers to arrive. Jacob, a voice shouted outside. We know you're in there. Jacob recognized the voice, one of the men he'd seen outside his house earlier. What do you want? We just want to talk. Come on out. Jacob knew it was a lie. If they just wanted to talk, they wouldn't be breaking in at night. Leave or I'll call the police. The police are far away, kid, and we've got an important message from the boss. Footsteps approached the window of the room where they were hiding. Dad, they're coming in, Jacob whispered. Robert grabbed a piece of wood, ready to defend them. Then the sound of an engine roared closer. Through the window, Jacob saw headlights, a pickup truck speeding into the yard. It's Mr. Anderson, Jacob said, relieved. Richard stepped out with 2 farmhands. The intruders hesitated, clearly not expecting interference. Get off this property now, Richard shouted. The police are on their way. Victor's men backed off but didn't leave completely. This isn't your business, Richard, one yelled. Everything that happens to this family is my business, Richard answered firmly. The men exchanged glances, uncertain. They hadn't expected organized resistance. Then police sirens wailed in the distance. The intruders scrambled to their vehicles and fled before officers arrived. Everyone all right? Richard asked as he entered the house. We are, thanks to you, Jacob said. Sheriff Wilson arrived soon after with several officers. They filed a full report and promised to increase patrols in the area. This is getting too serious, the sheriff said. We'll arrest Victor Reynolds tomorrow. Jacob finally felt relief. It seemed the worst of the confrontation was over. The next morning, Jacob went with Richard and the sheriff to Victor's farm. But when they arrived, they found he'd disappeared. Workers say he left last night, Sheriff Wilson explained. No one knows where. Jacob was frustrated. Victor had slipped away again. What now? Jacob asked. We'll keep investigating. He can't run forever. But Jacob knew that as long as Victor was free, his family wouldn't be safe. In the days that followed, Jacob tried to return to his normal routine. He went back to attending school regularly and helped Richard with work on the farm. But he still felt frustrated about losing the scholarship. Without it, his future seemed uncertain again. That's when Ms. Johnson brought unexpected news. Jacob, I have a surprise for you. What surprise, ma'am? The technical school in Charleston called. They want to reconsider your application. Jacob couldn't believe it. What do you mean? It seems they received information about what really happened. Someone reached out to them explaining the situation. Jacob immediately suspected Richard had intervened somehow. Are they giving me the scholarship? They want you to go there for a personal interview. It's your chance to tell your side of the story. Jacob felt excited but also nervous. It was a second chance, but there were no guarantees. He talked to Richard about the interview that same afternoon. Mr. Anderson, was it you who contacted the school? Richard smiled mysteriously. Let's just say I have some connections in Charleston. Do you think I have a chance? Jacob, you're honest, smart, and determined. Any serious institution will recognize that. Jacob spent the next few days preparing for the interview. He reviewed everything that had happened and organized his thoughts. Richard offered to drive him to Charleston on the day of the interview. Don't worry about a thing, just be yourself. The trip to Charleston took 2 hours. Jacob was impressed by the size and quality of the technical school. It's bigger than I imagined, Jacob said. It's one of the best schools in the region, Richard replied. Jacob was greeted by a panel of 3 teachers. They listened carefully as he told the whole story. Jacob, the anonymous accusations we received were very serious, one of the teachers said. I understand, sir, but I can prove it was all just revenge. Jacob showed all the documents he had gathered, including copies of the police report and recommendation letters. Impressive, said another teacher. You handled a very difficult situation with great maturity. What impresses me most is your determination to do the right thing, even under pressure, added the third. After 2 hours of conversation, the teachers asked Jacob to wait outside while they deliberated. Jacob grew nervous waiting for the result. Everything depended on that decision. 15 minutes later, he was called back in. Jacob, after reviewing the situation, we've decided not only to keep your application, but also to offer you a full scholarship." Jacob was speechless for a moment. You're sure?" "Absolutely. We believe you're exactly the kind of student we want to train." Jacob left the school walking on air. He had finally achieved his dream of studying. Richard was waiting in the parking lot with a huge smile. "From the look on your face, I can see it went well." "It did. I got the scholarship." "I knew you would. Now just get ready for a new chapter in life." On the way back, Jacob reflected on everything that had happened in the past few weeks. He had faced threats, lost opportunities, and regained hope. "Mr. Anderson, I want to thank you for everything you've done for me and my family. Jacob, you saved my farm and taught me important lessons about character. I'm the one who should be thanking you. Even so, I'll never forget your help. And you don't have to forget. Just repay me by helping others when you get the chance." When they arrived at the farm, they found Karen and Robert waiting anxiously for news. "So?" Karen asked. "I got the scholarship," shouted Jacob, hugging his mother. Robert embraced his son with tears in his eyes. "I knew you could do it, my boy." Jacob had spent a week celebrating winning the scholarship when he received news that changed everything again. Sheriff Wilson called Richard to inform him that Victor Reynolds had been arrested in a neighboring town. He was caught trying to sabotage another farmer's property, the sheriff explained. This time, he was caught red-handed. Jacob felt relieved. Finally, Victor would pay for his crimes. What will happen to him? With all the evidence we have, he'll be locked up for a long time. Jacob felt a weight lifted off his shoulders. Now he could focus entirely on his future. But one last surprise was waiting for him. A few days later, the other farmers in the area approached Jacob for a talk. "Jacob, we want to formalize our proposal about the maintenance cooperative," said Patrick. "What do you mean?" "We want you to be our partner when you finish your studies," explained Mark. Jacob was speechless. "Partner, but I don't have money to invest." "Your knowledge and skills are your investment," said Benjamin. "We'll provide the startup capital and you bring the technical expertise." Jacob looked at Richard, who was smiling proudly. "What do you think, Mr. Anderson?" "I think it's the opportunity of a lifetime, Jacob." Jacob reflected on the offer. It was exactly what he had always dreamed of, a chance to have his own business while helping farmers. "I accept," Jacob said firmly. The farmers cheered and began discussing the details of the partnership. That night, Jacob talked to his parents about all the recent developments. "Son, I can hardly believe how much your life has changed," said Karen. "It feels like a dream," Robert agreed. "It's not a dream, Dad. It's the result of hard work and making the right choices. And meeting good people along the way," Karen added, thinking of Richard. Jacob smiled. His mother was right. None of this would have been possible without the help of kind people like Richard and Ms. Johnson. In the weeks that followed, Jacob prepared to start his new life as a student. The family home had been renovated with Richard's help, and Karen was now working regularly at the farm. Robert had also regained his spirit. With the family's financial stability secured, he began doing small repairs for neighbors within his physical limits. "Jacob, you brought hope back to our family," Robert said one day. "It wasn't just me, Dad. It was all of us working together." "Maybe, but you had the courage to do the right thing when it would have been easier to give up." Jacob thought about his father's words. There were moments when it would have been easier to take Victor's money or simply hide from the problems, but choosing the harder path had been worth it. The day before technical school began, Jacob paid one last visit to the combine harvester he had repaired. The machine was running perfectly, helping Richard with the new harvest. "Funny to think it all started here," Jacob said, touching the side of the harvester. "And it'll continue here," Richard replied. "When you come back after graduating, this machine will still be waiting for you." Jacob smiled. He knew Richard was right. That farm, that community, would always be his home. "Mr. Anderson, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did you trust me that first day?" "I was just a stranger." Richard thought for a moment before answering. Jacob, sometimes in life you meet special people. It might be in how they look at you, how they speak, how they carry themselves. That day, I saw something different in you. What exactly? Genuine honesty. It's a rare quality these days. Jacob felt honored by the compliment. I hope I never disappoint your trust. I'm sure you won't. Jacob spent his last night at home reflecting on everything that had happened. In just a few months, his life had completely changed. He had started as a poor boy who just wanted to help a struggling farmer. Now, he was about to begin an education that would lead him to a promising career. But most importantly, he had learned valuable lessons about character, determination, and the importance of doing the right thing. The next morning, Richard took him to Charleston for his first day of school. Nervous? Richard asked during the drive. A little, but also excited. That's normal. Starting something new always brings nerves. When they arrived at the school, Jacob saw other students arriving for their first day. Some looked just as nervous as he did. It'll be fine, Richard said. You have everything you need to succeed. Jacob hugged the farmer. Thank you for everything, Mr. Anderson, for believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself. Just repay me by becoming the man I know you can be. Jacob walked into the school with confidence. He knew he had a long road ahead, but he also knew he had the support of people who believed in him. During his first day, Jacob met other students and teachers. He was impressed by the quality of education and the opportunities opening up before him. When he returned home at the end of the week, his family was eager to hear about his experiences. How were your classes? Karen asked. Amazing, Mom. I'm learning things I never even imagined. And the other students? They're interesting people. Some come from poor families like ours. Others have more money. But everyone's there to learn. Robert smiled proudly. My son's studying at one of the best technical schools in the state. Jacob hugged his father. And this is just the beginning, Dad. In the months that followed, Jacob excelled in his classes. His hands-on experience with Richard's combine harvester helped him grasp concepts other students found difficult. His teachers quickly noticed his potential and began giving him more challenging projects. Jacob, you have a natural talent for this, his mechanics teacher said. Have you ever considered specializing in large agricultural machinery? That's exactly what I want to do, sir. Then I'll recommend you for a special program we have with equipment manufacturers. It's a chance to intern with the best companies in the field. Jacob could hardly believe it. The opportunities kept coming. During school breaks, Jacob returned to work at Richard's farm as they had agreed. How's school? Richard asked. Better than I expected. I'm learning so much. And your plans for the future? Jacob told him about the internship opportunity with equipment manufacturers. That's perfect, Richard said. It'll give you experience with cutting-edge machinery. And when I come back, we can start planning the cooperative for real. Exactly. The other farmers are eager to have you on the team. Jacob worked all through the break, applying what he'd learned in school. He fixed several machines on the farm and helped other local producers with technical issues. You're getting better and better, Richard observed. It's just that now I understand the theory behind what I do. Before, I only followed what my dad taught me. Both are important. Theory without practice is useless, but practice without theory has its limits. Jacob agreed. He was beginning to understand how theoretical knowledge and hands-on experience complemented each other. When he returned to school for his second year, Jacob was more confident and determined than ever. He knew exactly what he wanted to do with his life. He was selected for the internship program with one of the largest agricultural machinery manufacturers in the country. It was an incredible opportunity to learn from the best professionals in the field. Jacob, you were chosen among hundreds of applicants, said the program coordinator. It's a big responsibility. I understand, sir. I'll give it my all. The internship took place on weekends and during breaks, allowing Jacob to continue his regular studies. At the company, Jacob worked directly with experienced engineers, learning about the latest technologies in farm equipment. I've never seen an intern so dedicated, his supervisor remarked. You have a bright future in this field. Jacob soaked up every bit of information like a sponge. He knew he was receiving an education few young people from his background had access to. During his third year of studies, Jacob began seriously planning the future of the cooperative with Richard and the other farmers. "Jacob, we want you to finish your studies without rushing," said Patrick. "The cooperative can wait, but I can already start helping you on weekends." "That's true," Mark agreed. "Your current experience is already beyond most of the local technicians." Jacob started working part-time for the group of farmers, solving complex problems the local technicians couldn't handle. "It's impressive how quickly you diagnose issues," Benjamin observed. "It's a matter of experience and technical knowledge working together," Jacob explained. His reputation began spreading throughout the region. Other producers started seeking him out for difficult problems. "Jacob, you're becoming famous," Richard joked. "It's good for the cooperative's future. The more people know about our work, the better." In his final year at technical school, Jacob was working nearly full-time, balancing studies and hands-on work. His teachers were amazed by his progress. "Jacob, you're already operating at a professional level," said the school principal. "It's rare to see a student make so much progress." "I'm grateful for all the opportunities I've had here, and we're grateful to have a student who honors our institution." Jacob graduated as the top student in his class. On graduation day, his whole family was there, along with Richard and the other partner farmers. "I'm so proud of you," Karen said, tears in her eyes. "Thank you for never giving up on me, Mom." Robert hugged his son, emotional. "You've made our dreams come true, Jacob." "No, Dad. We made our dreams come true. This was only possible because you supported me." Richard approached with a huge smile. "So, partner, ready to start our business?" Jacob smiled back. "More than ready, Mr. Anderson." A week after graduation, Jacob officially joined the Agricultural Machinery Maintenance Cooperative. The business was registered as Valley Technical Cooperative, reflecting the collective nature of the venture. Jacob would be the technical manager, responsible for all practical aspects of the business, while the farmers handled administration and finances. "Jacob, you have free rein to organize the technical department however you see fit," said Patrick. "First, I need to set up a proper workshop. We already have a warehouse reserved in town. You can equip it however you like." Jacob spent weeks planning and organizing the workshop. He wanted it to be a model of efficiency and quality. He bought modern equipment, arranged tools logically, and created systems for quick problem diagnosis. "This is turning out impressive," Richard said during a visit. "I want it to be the best in the region. Our edge will be service quality." Jacob also hired 2 local assistants, young men eager to learn the trade. "I'll teach you everything I know," Jacob told his new employees, "but I expect total dedication." The young men, impressed by the opportunity, proved to be extremely hard-working. In the first few months of operation, the cooperative mainly served its member farmers, but soon other producers began seeking their services. "The quality of your work is getting noticed," remarked a new client. "That's our goal," Jacob replied. "We want to be the standard for quality." The business grew quickly. Within 6 months, Jacob had a full schedule and was considering hiring more technicians. "Jacob, you need to take care of yourself," Karen warned. "You're working too much." "It's just that so much work keeps coming in, Mom." "But you need time to rest and think about the future." Jacob knew his mother was right. The early success was exciting, but he needed to plan for sustainable growth. He spoke with Richard and the other partners about expanding. "Jacob, we want to grow but responsibly," Richard said. "I agree, we'll hire more people and expand gradually." Jacob brought on 2 experienced technicians and began serving a wider area. The cooperative's reputation spread throughout the region. Farmers from various towns started seeking their services. "I never imagined we'd grow this fast," Mark commented. "It's the result of quality work," Jacob replied. "Satisfied customers recommend us." By the end of the first year, the cooperative was already considered the best agricultural machinery repair business in the region. Jacob had become a technical authority, consulted by other professionals and even equipment manufacturers. "Jacob, you've built something remarkable," Richard said. "We built it, Mr. Anderson. This was only possible because you all believed in me. And we made the right choice. You've exceeded all our expectations." Jacob looked around the bustling workshop, with technicians working on multiple machines at once, and felt deep satisfaction. He had started as a poor boy who just wanted to help a struggling farmer. Now he was a respected businessman, employing several people and helping hundreds of rural producers. "You know what's most rewarding?" Jacob said to Richard. "What?" "Seeing that we're really making a difference in people's lives. Every machine we fix ensures a farming family's livelihood." Richard smiled proudly. "That's exactly the kind of thinking that makes you a special leader, Jacob." Jacob reflected on his journey. Since that day, he stopped to help Richard with the broken combine harvester. His life had completely changed. He had faced threats, overcome obstacles, and achieved dreams that once seemed impossible. But most importantly, he had done it all while keeping his values and principles intact. "Mr. Anderson, can I confess something?" "Of course." "Sometimes I still can't believe all this is real." "It's real, Jacob. And it's the result of your character, determination, and hard work." Jacob smiled, watching the activity in the workshop. His employees worked diligently, serving customers who trusted the quality of their services. "So what's next?" Richard asked. "Now we keep growing, but always remembering where we came from and why we started." "That's the Jacob I met on that first day," Richard said, "a humble boy who just wanted to help." Jacob nodded. No matter how much success he achieved, he would never forget his roots or the people who helped him along the way. The story of the boy who fixed a combine harvester had become the story of a young entrepreneur who transformed his community. And it all began with a simple act of kindness and the courage to do the right thing. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of Jacob's journey from that very first day when he decided to help Mr. Anderson. Do you think he made the right choices by turning down easy money? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel.